Guru Kripa Kevalam. Namaste and welcome everyone to Satsang today. Sadguru Shri Muji Baba Ki Jai. It's okay now, the volume? Still low. Is it only for you, my dear, or is it for everyone? Okay, thumbs up if the volume is good. It's good? Yeah, thank you. Okay, now that the volume is good, what should we talk about? How many of you still feel that you have to find something? Huh? You have to find something? Still waiting to find something? Okay. How many of you feel like you found it or you keep finding it but you keep losing it? Yeah? Oh, here also. Yes. But that which comes and goes is not real, no? That is the Vedanta 101. First lesson of Vedanta, isn't it? That if you are going to define reality in some way, then that which comes and goes cannot be real. So if it came, it had to go. And therefore, it was just part of the phenomenal appearance. So, what are we waiting for? And if you got it, how would you know that you got it? You see? Because all of you apparently are aware of the concept that the discovery is not phenomenal, isn't it? And if the discovery is not phenomenal, then how would you recognize it? Huh? Sorry, I'm starting on this note, but I feel like good to clarify right off the bat, no? So the expectations are clear from both sides. So, for those of you who feel like you had it and then you lost it, that which you had, you see, if it was not a phenomenal experience, how could it go? Because only phenomena comes and goes. You see. So, are you associating the byproducts of this discovery, which could be some sense of peace, or bliss, or joy, or love, or even like a feeling of phenomenal spaciousness? Are you associating that with the capital T truth that we speak about? And in that way, in one way or the other, we continue to remain chasing experiences, experience chasers, where actually our claim is that we are searching for the truth. So, and let me ask you one more difficult question and then I'll stop. If you were to follow me, but I was to tell you you're going to get nowhere, it is pointless. There is no point coming to satsang, you see, because you're not going to get anywhere if you follow me. How many of you would say, okay, bye bye, we're done? You see? You see? It is easy to follow when there's an expectation that I'm going to get somewhere. You see? For that, we need no devotion. You see? Devotion really, in the truest sense, implies that I'm going to follow the direction of the master with no expectation of even getting somewhere. You see? I actually, where I'm pointing you to is not even nowhere. You see? Not even nowhere you're going to get. How many of you still want to stick around? You see? Under the promise of, or the expectation of, the carrot of enlightenment or freedom, you see, then we'll follow easily. There's no trouble, right? Because we've been promised the greatest thing in the universe. Why will we not follow? You see? But the thing is that your idea of enlightenment, your idea of freedom is getting in your way. It may be a construct of some experience or some idea that you may have about it, which is just impeding the simplest discovery that was ever made. You see? We're searching all over the world to find ourselves. Isn't that a great strangeness? We're searching all over the world to find ourselves. Satsang to satsang, master to master, finding, hoping to hear one day something which will bring us to ourselves. You see? I'm not saying, by the way, that you must not listen to masters or follow satsang. I'm just saying that if you were to find yourself, how would you know it? What in you has the ability to make a non phenomenal discovery? You see? So, if the truth is not phenomenal and it does not come and go, then will your eyes find it? Will your ears hear it? Will your nose smell it? Any of the senses, can they experience it? Even your inner perception, through which you can imagine and think about the past and imagine the future, does that have the capacity, the inner perception, to perceive the non phenomenal? Like you can close your eyes and imagine a tree or a forest or a butterfly or whatever you like. But can you imagine a non phenomenal? You cannot do it. So there's a simpler knowing which all of you have and you can never lose. And all that the master is pointing you to is that. What is that knowing which you can never lose? And don't go to something you just heard from the mouth of any master. Look completely fresh, not in your mind, not that type of knowing, not in your perception, but that which is independent of either of these. You see? That self knowledge, that awareness of the self, independent of even the play of waking and sleeping. I woke up for that for which I am wakes up and I am goes back to sleep. That which is aware of both of these. Don't you know that one? Is it not you? see? You cannot grasp at it. You cannot try. You cannot think your way through it or to it. You cannot use your attention, look, or look to find it. Independent of all of that, that which does not come and go, effortlessly, your truths. How many of you feel now it is apparent to you right now in this moment? And if it's not, it's not. It's okay. Good, good. Okay. You see? Now, instead of trying to keep it, you see, try to lose it. Lose self knowledge. Don't know yourself. It would mean that when you're hearing this voice, you're not clear about who's hearing it. Am I hearing it? Is someone else hearing it? But isn't it obvious that I am hearing it? You see? So, what are we looking for? If it is clear that I am aware of these perceptions, and it is also clear that this I that is aware is shapeless, it is sizeless, it is birthless, it is deathless, then what is the struggle about? You see? I feel most of the struggle, if not all of it, is about not about the I, it is about what the me will get in the discovery of the I. What is the benefit to the me if I find I? Do you have a sense of what I'm saying? It is like a egoic desire of the fulfillment of the self discovery, so that this limited idea of myself can always be in a particular state or something like that. That is why we find it most difficult to engage with the simplest question that I ask. Is it? What is the simplest question that I ask? I just ask you, how do you know that it is you that is perceiving this hand? Is it? It's clear to you it is you. Anyone who's not clear that it is you perceiving the hand, you have heard too much Advaita. You see? You may say, I don't know who that I is, but it is I. That much is apparent at least, isn't it? You may say, I'm so confused because I don't have a picture of this I can't find it. You see? But even that you're claiming an I, which is so obvious to you. Even when you say I can't find it, you're claiming an I, which is so obvious, it cannot be lost. When you say I have found it at times and I have lost it, you see, is it the same I that found and lost? You see, so it came to this I and it was lost to this I. Did this I ever come and go? You see, that is the main point, isn't it? Now, what is the struggle? The struggle is that you can't see it, no? You can't perceive it But if you were to perceive it, then it would be another phenomena, and it would also come and go. You see, that is the struggle. The struggle is also that you can't conceptualize it. So, what is it? What is it? You see, I want to be able to define it, and you can't define it. That is the struggle. But none of you have ever lost the self. You cannot lose it if you try, because you would have to be there to lose it. But I'm not just making intellectual conclusions. So, for a minute, all of us, let's try to lose ourselves instead of trying to find ourselves. Just come to a state where you are not. You see? Even that which is aware that I am or I am not, even that one is not. Let's lose that one. Yeah, let's do it. We'll do this. Even if it sounds silly or childish or absurd. Let's have some trust and do this. Yeah. So try really hard. Lose yourself. Like, don't be yourself. Don't be. See? Who's succeeding? Don't feel shy. Anyone succeeding at losing yourself? You see? So, so what are we looking for again? That which we cannot lose. But, come on, let's have a but. Let's hear somebody saying, I'm unmuting everyone. But, say it. Nobody has a but?
Can't seem to see my cities.
Uh-huh. Say again. I'm missing what you're saying.
I can't feel my city.
You can't feel.
Cities.
Can't feel what?
My cities. City.
But it,
City.
Siddhis?
Yeah.
You
But
can't
what
find.
now?
Is that what you're saying? And when put in the light of questioning like this, you yourself are realizing the absurdity of the but, isn't it? Because all of you that came up and tried to say something, you were laughing more than saying. You see? So you realize that the objection from the mind, especially when looked at in the light of satsang, in the presence of the sangha, then that seemed to be quite absurd, isn't it? But when it is done in the dark, you see, of the mind, sitting alone, you see, and it says, but is that it? You see, am I not just faking it? All these kind of objections, when it come in that way, when you don't expose it in your own light, then it can seem like a real problem. You see, but in one way or the other, the objection is linked to what is the benefit of this? Okay, it's simple. I can't lose myself. I tried. I'm still here. No matter how much I try, you see, I'm still here. You see?
So the objection is not that I'm not here.
Yeah.
The objection, it's not an objection. There's a belief that that what I heard that if
Hmm.
The I that I thought I was or that me is not you. So it kind of like makes it feel as if there's more than one I. That kind of creates great confusions. I mean, that belief feels like this one which I'm so naturally
So it's,
saying.
but what?
But I feel that there's another I, just hard
Yeah.
is to kind of understand it, that there's another I which I'm supposed to have mistaken myself for, which is still hanging around. That's
So it's a spiritual problem.
yeah, it's a spiritual.
You see, we have too much spiritual knowledge. So we feel like, but when did I get rid of the false? You see, or this I that I'm finding may still be the ego. How do I know? Is it like that? You see? No false I has ever existed. That's why it is false. You see? Can we ever get rid of that which never existed? The biggest problem in the universe is to try and solve a non existent problem. And that is why this spiritual problem is impossible to solve, you see, because it doesn't exist. Get rid of the ego, kill the ego, you know, banish the ego. How to do that with one that doesn't exist? You see? So the ego you cannot find, and the self you cannot lose.
Father, we can finally go in the form of this voice who keeps saying
But
I
that
and
is just the lawyer, no? That is just the lawyer of this client. But can you find the client? The voice is speaking. Because there is a voice, does it prove that there is a entity? Suppose the voice became a frog's voice tomorrow. You see, I want mosquito, I want mosquito. Will you start believing that you're a frog? Maybe. Maybe. Maybe that's what it's about. And I've been saying this because there is a narrative, because there is this subtitling voice. We believe the identity of that one, which has never existed. But don't we want to push the standard a little more than just there being a voice now? You see? Because all of the masters have told us that the voice is a trickster. The mind is not your friend. So if we keep falling for that voice and we trust the existence of an entity who's really there, it's saying, I want pizza. You see? I want pizza. One day we looked. No? One day some young one was there and he was really frustrated saying, but what are we saying? I can't, what are you trying to say? You see? And then what we said is that suppose from the next room you're hearing this voice, I want pizza, I want pizza. You see? And you've been supplying this one pizza for the last 10 years. You see? There comes a point where it is never satisfied. So that doesn't it compel you to go and look who is this one who's getting all this pizza from me? You see? And when we go looking, we realize there's nobody. It's just been a mythical idea. You see? It was just a voice representing nobody. So who does this voice represent? Haven't we suffered enough from this voice already to at least make that exploration? You see? Make that exploration. Whose voice are you? You see? And if I find you, then I promise you that I'll give you all the pizza you want. You see? You just handed over everything to this voice. Like somebody comes at your door and says, who are you? Show me your ID. First, won't you say, but who are you to ask for my ID? You see? So the perception of this voice is a common human condition. You see? But because this voice is heard, you see, does it mean that there must be an entity who it is representing? and the entity was so apparent, then shouldn't we see its shape, its color, its size, its birth? You see? Whose voice is it? Whose voice is it? So the spiritual seeker is the most confused one, no? Because this one it cannot find, and that one it cannot find. You see? It's looking with its eyes and trying to find the ego, can never find it. With its eyes, it's trying to find the self, can never find it. You see? So it's caught between two mirages, fully confused. And sometimes it will replace some phenomenal experience of maybe some joy or some chakra or some experience or some astral travel or some past life experience or something like that, and we feel like I'm finding the self, isn't it? And then, okay, that is when I was free, you see? But it was just more phenomena and nothing to do with yourself. You see? So it cannot find the ego and it cannot find the self with perception. You see? Then it, it finds the ego and the self through concepts. The ego through worldly concepts and the self through spiritual concepts. And then its life becomes like a tennis ball, going from worldly concept to spiritual concept. You see? That is no way to live. You're missing life in this ping pong game. So, independent of either of them, you see, independent of all notion, you tried, no? You tried to lose yourself. What happened? Was there an ego sitting there? Did you come across a ego, a scary looking creature sitting there which you had to kill and destroy to be free? No such entity exists. You see, the idea that you have to kill the ego is the ego. So, when you were trying to lose yourself, how did you see that you could not lose it? How did you see that you could not lose it? Who has an answer? Just speak. When you were trying to lose yourself, how did you figure that you could not lose it? What did you find
Attempt
that you?
attempt was also perceived as I was trying to do something to lose myself.
Yeah. So the attempt to lose yourself was also perceived. But what about the self? How did you know that you could not lose it? Was it just an inference that hey, this is also perceived and therefore was it just inferential, or was there something more direct than that?
I still am.
You still are. And how was that discovery made? Was it a perceptual discovery? Did you see it through your eyes, through your senses?
No, I
No.
just am.
You just are. You just are.
Yeah,
You just are.
it's not. There's no words for that. Um,
Yes.
uh, yeah, it's. I mean, it's even ridiculous to talk about a bit.
Yes. 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 That's what we do in satsang. So it's a ridiculous thing we do in satsang. So it's so plainly obvious and clear
Hmm.
that even to say to lose it or find it is absurd, isn't it? So So if it's
It's
that,
obvious.
huh, huh?
Hmm.
So this obviousness comes from just pure self knowledge, which doesn't need even a perception, it doesn't need a concept. That is all the self knowledge that you have, and that is all the self knowledge you will ever have, because it cannot become more. You see, what will become less is that you stop believing the nonsense about yourself. You see, it is not that the truth has to expand, it's just that the false has to dissolve. You see? And the biggest aspect of the false now that you are in satsang and having this so simple discovery is that it is going to say, but how does that help me? But me who? There is no deal. There is no deal that the discovery of the Supreme Self is supposed to help the non existent fable called me. You see? But this is what is the misery of the spiritual seeker, because it will keep saying, but what about me? You see, the mind's voice will come and say, yes, yes, I'm finding the self, but how does that help me? You see, this me is not the truth. It is just the lawyer for the non existent client, complaining, saying objection, objection. You see, and that is when the satsang rubber hits the road. Because once you realize the master is not going to help me, you may want to run. You see, that it is not the master's job to help me. The master has discovered that you are beyond, in a good way, beyond all help. You see, and the and once you see that this me has no real place now, you see, has no legs to stand on. You see, you may feel a fear, you may feel a worry, you may feel a concern about the non-existent one. You see, your mind could simply tell you it's too much, and you may run for a lifetime, and then we meet again in the next lifetime. You see, you may just say it's too much. It's like too much. You see, on the other hand, it could also say, "Oh, that's it. Good. I'm done now." You see, still smelling of ego, and yet believing some conceptual idea of freedom, and run, run, run. So the mind's idea is to run one way or the other, isn't it? So do you all feel that when I'm saying now that it is so apparent to you, you yourself are so apparent to you, independent of any way of seeing the self or thinking about the self, is that getting clearer in some way? You see? Now, the trickster will try to convince you that this is not enough. There has to be something else. You see? I wanted more. You see? But that actually is a denial of the magnificence of your discovery. Even right now, you may be saying, but is that it? You see? But what you're referring to when you're making that objection is that it is just a mental painting of your discovery. Because if you were to refer to the discovery, then you will find that it is beyond any reference point. It is that unlimited, beyond time and space self that your heart is longing for. You see? So when we make that, when we believe that objection, but this is too simple, this can't be it. You see, you made a fathomable version of the unfathomable in your head, and you're using that as a reference point to compare and say, well, is that it then? You see? Because If you were to refer to the unreferable, it will shake up your world. It will shake up every belief that you have if you were to just allow it instead of interpreting it. You see? We are quick to interpret because that is our defense. You see? Even looking outside the door is too much for us. So we have to interpret it and say, oh, plant, sky, tree. You see? And that's how we claim to have some control over it. When faced with the simple discovery of the self, you see, which is so naked and empty and open that it is unfathomable to your mind, you're going to try and define it as some dark space or some light or some idea about it, or maybe you're just making um, uh, uh, the conclusion that is that it, and you're losing all reference to the discovery itself. You're just saying is that it, but you've lost all reference to what you actually discovered. Who's with me? You see? So I realize it can sound very complex to the mind sometimes, but I'm saying very simple things. So when we make the conclusion, this is so simple, this can't be it. You see, we've lost it anyway. We are no longer referring to the truth. You see, refer to the that which is before the sound of the click. Refer to that and tell me whether it's simple or difficult. Cannot make that. No good. Cannot make that. You see? It is unreferenceable in that way. Because in that moment you're out of time and space. Then in your notions you come back to, like, you settle back into the comfort of the universe in a way. You see? And if you're confused, it is fine. It is not you that is confused. It is just your playground of the intellect. You see? Let that which is confused be confused. You stay with me. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's good not to answer your questions because your questions are still coming from a reference point, maybe, of taking yourself to be too limited, too much of a body mind, and to engage with you in that way may just keep reinforcing that over and over again. You see?
Discovery is time based.
If there is a discovery, it is time based. You see, and yet what is this non-time based, this non-discovery discovery? It is, no, like, it's absurd to call it a discovery because it's always been clear in a way, just clouded by conceptual muck. You see, conceptual clouds. You see? So, and yet, when the clouds clear, it can feel like fresh light. You see? And yet, it's not fresh. It's always been there. You see? So, you realize now that there is no how of it. Is it clear to you that the discovery will not be made through a how? There will not be a mechanism to get to the self. You cannot try hard enough and then, okay, that's where I came to. Digging. So, what is the tool you have? You have the tool of attention. So, how far can you send it? You can send it outside, seeming outside. What is the most distant voice that I hear? You see, most distant sound. You can send it outside, apparently outside, still inside your being. Anyway, that's a digression. So outside, maximum outside. Then you say, okay, not to be found outside. All the masters have said, can't find it outside. Okay. Then you say, okay, let's go inside. Where will you take it? You take it to your thoughts. You take it to your emotion. You see? You take it to your pain, pleasure, take it to your sense of being even. After that, is there anything left that we can call attention? Where will you take it? You'll take it to some dark, empty space. Is that the self? Are you dark, empty space? You see? Where will you take it? You cannot get it through your attention. And yet, independent of this outer attention or seeming inner attention, you see, there is some pristine clarity which remains untouched by any of this. And that is the self you cannot lose. Because if it was a product of your attention, you would lose it. Attention can never be stable. You see? And who would want to live like that anyway, where my attention is just fixated on some idea I have about myself? You see? Then how would the sages operate in this world? There are photos of videos of Bhagwan reading the newspaper, no? Is he reading the newspaper without attention? You see? So don't fall into any sort of absurdity like that, that I have to keep my attention this way or that way. You see? Then what are the other tool you have? You can think. Self, I want the self. You see? And you're waiting for that perfect thought to come. E is equal to mc square. Ah, that's it. Yeah. It's not going to be like that. It is written in the great Sikh scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib, Soche sochna hoye jo soche lakhwar, which means that you may think and think and think 100,000 times, but through your thinking, you will never find the self. So with your attention, you cannot find it. With your thinking, you cannot find it. What else do you have? You have something, you see, but we've not used it because in the world we are not taught to practice that. So when you saw that you could not lose yourself, were you just thinking you could not lose yourself? No. Were you having a perception of this self which was steady and sitting there? No. You see? So that knowledge you see, is your intuitive insight. On the spiritual path, many years were spent here. Many years were spent here looking for something, but I didn't know how I was looking. You see? I just felt like I have to find it. You see? And then I was grasping same things. So when I speak, it's from all these experiences. You know? I had some experiences, and I was saying that those have to remain, and then that would be the true freedom. You see? But freedom means everything can come and go. We're so full of absurdity as a spiritual seeker. We're trying to make something constant, and we call that freedom. How is it freedom if freedom would mean that everything can come and go? So we are looking at stillness as freedom. Then what is the other confusions? Like you feel like you fill stuff your head enough with spiritual concepts. You see, read I am that twice, read the power of now, read be as you are, and you feel like that is, you see, if you just get it enough, like understand the material deeply enough, then you're really, you know, you may become a spiritual professor. But that is not freedom. If you mug up the entire Vedanta library and you can quote the concepts, all the Upanishads, you see, every verse you can say, okay, this is verse number, chapter 28, verse number 3 of this Upanishad. You may feel like that is, like I felt that. You see, I felt that. That if I just know the material well enough, then I'll be free. Because that's how you learn things in the world. But that is not it. You see. So when I came to the feet of Guruji, what was the discovery? When I sat in the hot seat with him, was it was it something new that was found? You see? But no, it wasn't. And yet it blew my mind. No? What does it mean? That looking into his eyes, I was no longer able to make a reference to myself. When we say we lose the me, what happens that we lose only the references. No? We're no longer taking a sensation to be a boundary of me. We're no longer taking a notion to be a boundary of me. That is the loss of the personal identity, the limited self. You see? And many have these experiences very spontaneously. Like there are many also in Western philosophy, like if you read The Stranger by Camus or you read Nausea by Sartre, you will you will have the protagonist who have clearly lost the sense of personal self mostly, except that they haven't lost the evaluative tendency of saying what's happening to me. I cannot find any difference between the rock and myself. You see? And when I read these books first, I just felt like this could be a book written about me after I met Guruji. You know? It could be a book written, but I realized there's one difference. First, I was saying that, yeah, this actually they're not realizing that they're coming to the discovery of the self, the loss of the personal, individual, limited identity, and they cannot see it. How can't they see it? You see, that was the feeling. And then I realized there's one subtle difference, subtle but very important, that this self-evaluative tendency or self-consciousness, as they call it, you see, was not there by Guruji's grace here, but it is there in those protagonists who are still saying, "What's happening to me? I don't have this." What? You see, this kind of always evaluating, and who are they evaluating? Again, back to the limited. So, although you may have these spontaneous experiences, and it's all over the world, the presence of the master is greatly helpful because he will rid you of even that sort of self-consciousness thing. As they define it, is like being photographed or being filmed. So they move from that limited identity to this. What's happening to me? Am I doing this right? So if you think that your discovery of yourself is going to ever be more than anything that is so apparent to you now in terms of what you are, then that can make a journey out of this. In fact, whatever you may think about this is going to make a journey out of this. What do you think about yourself? Forget about it. What do you think about yourself? You see? Forget about it. And what do you know about yourself? Definitely forget about it. Now, you want me to look at the questions? Are the questions still worthy of you? You can type again. If you want me to look at your question, you can type again and say it's still real for me. I will go back to the question and I'll read it out. Mm. How do you know that you are not free already? What is the bondage that you find? Okay, some questions have come. Okay, let's look at this. Dear Anantaji, in self inquiry, I find that the mind threw up a trump card. Acha. I find that the mind threw up a trump card. The good thing is that I realized this is a trump card from the mind. Very good. Yes, I was going to say that. Very good. If I reject everything that I acquired, this idea that what is true must be permanent is also an idea acquired from outside. Yes, very much so. So even the idea of reality, you see, being permanent is a notion in time. Just at best a pointer, but a provisional pointer. Yes, so let go of the notion of permanent and impermanent as well. Then you say, though I realize this is a trick of the mind, just for the sake of the game, do you have an answer to this? Satsang is an answer to this. Satsang is an answer to all notions, bringing you to the unborn, bringing you to your notionless existence. Okay, let's see what the question was. Why should truth with the capital T be that which is permanent? It isn't. It is a provisional thought experiment. All the Vedantins, I consider myself a Vedantin, by the way, before you jump up to kill me. Yeah, reluctant Vedantin? All notions of time, of permanence and impermanence, all of them are just provided by the sages so that we can look beyond our usual way of looking, you see, go beyond our usual way of thinking. You see, what happens if you follow the instruction? What happens if you admit for a moment that everything that comes and goes is not real? You see? So you lose your tentacles to this, what is called Maya, and you let yourself be free for a moment, and the truth is apparent in that. And the truth is apparent, then does this dichotomy of real and unreal exist anymore? Of timeful and timeless, does it exist anymore? It doesn't exist. You see, so the experiment has served its purpose. Okay, next one says, all this you type now, everyone? Okay. Father, please advise me to stick a stick to hold on to. Often for no reason I become dull, and at times I'm running after desires to get into a relationship and so on. Please help. So the pointers are there, the sticks are there, whichever appeals to you the most. It's quite democratic, you see. I've provided so many. You pick that which you feel like brings you to the most openness, to the most emptiness. For some, it is as simple as Guru Kripa Kevalam. Whatever happens is my master's grace, is God's grace, whatever way you want to call it. That could be it. For another, who am I? This is a very potent stick. You see? What do you find without the mind? Are you aware now? Don't believe your next thought. All these are the pointers that have been given in satsang. What do I know when I know nothing? So try them out and see what works for you. Is Socrates' parable of the cave significant from a satsang point of view? Okay, very good. So Plato's cave, they call it. So what happens is that in this cave, most of you know, there is bunch of people who've been tied up in the cave, and they are facing inwards, not towards the mouth of the cave. So what's happening is that from the mouth of the cave, the sunlight comes, and all these people can see is the shadows. You see, and as the day progresses, the shadows change, and they start to believe that the play of the shadows is the play of their life. You see, that is who they are, and that is the play of their life. Then, for some unexplained reason, at least that's the way I remember the parable, is that one of them becomes free, escapes, you see, and comes to the light for the first time, and the light is too bright, cannot take it. You see, so close his eyes, but slowly settles in, and sees that the world is very different. Reality is very different from their idea of the world, which was the play of shadows. You see? Then he says, what? He says, I'm going to help my fellow humans. So he runs back into the cave. He could have just enjoyed himself in the open, but he gets this feeling of being good to his brothers and sisters. So he runs back into the cave, and he tries to explain to everyone, this is false, this is false, this is just Maya, it's a Leela. You don't believe any of this stuff. And how is he met? How do you feel like he's called a madman? He's called said crazy. You're talking nonsense. You see? And in some stories, he's beaten up. I don't know how they're beaten up. If they're tied up. But anyway, so he's so so in a way it is like that. You see, in a way it is like that. That you have this perceptual view of the world, and the mental narrative and the representations of the world telling you that this is your life. When you come to the light of the truth, you see that was just a play of shadows compared to your reality, you see, which is so unlimited and broad. Then in the play of consciousness, then many can just go into silence or go about chopping wood, fetching water. You see, there's no real template like that. But for some who get this impulse to go back and help others, then many times they're faced with this kind of response also. You see, how can it be? What you're saying is so absurd. You're a madman. You see, many have been put to death. Many who tried to bring this light to their fellow brothers and sisters were put to death in the olden days. At least today's world is a bit better. I won't say it's really much better, but it does happen that you feel you get a lot of resistance, because what we are most attached to is our belief system. What you're most attached to is our belief system. If somebody comes and tells you everything that you think you know is garbage, not going to like it. Not going to like it, because people are willing to give up this mortal body for their belief system. They're willing to go to war for their belief system. They're willing to kill their brothers and sisters for belief system. They're willing to attack um, every aspect of humanity because they may carry a belief which they take to be true. So, so this, so in this expression, I'm not trying to shake anybody else's perspective, but if somebody comes to me and says, "Okay, tell me what is it you have found," then I'm happy to share. But some could be more radical. Some could go to the streets and speak like Socrates himself and say, "Come on, guys, what are you caught up in?" I'm a bit too lazy, I guess. Thank you for that question. Next one says, Master, after discovering the self, there is nothing to be or nothing to know. The state is just empty, or it's a stateless state. Is it my notion, or is it it? It is your notion. Everything that is conceptualizable. So you could say, for example, that I'm just saying these things to communicate with you. That is fine. Then it's not. Then it's just communication. You see, and we have to use notions to communicate in a worldly and a wordy way. You see? So you could say that. But if you take it to be true, then it is just your notion. The truth is undefinable, as frustrating as that may be for the mind. You see, you would not have want it any other way. Also, suppose you just were able to one day define the truth and say A is equal to B plus C minus D plus F square. That's it. That's the truth. Yeah, that's it. And it would really, if you feel like life is meaningless now, wait till you're able to define the truth. So you would not want that, which you may think you want it, but you would not. Then next one says, so it's not mind, not feeling, not form, not movement. So it's just being. No. Where is being in sleep or death? Exactly. That's why it's not even being. Although being is the most immaculate perception in a way, let's call it, although it's not really a perception, and yet you can sense the vibrational sense of I amness, no, the presence of I amness. So, so it could be a beautiful pointer, but what's on that side of, so on this side of I amness is this whole world, the manifest universe, all the perception, everything. But what is aware even of I amness? So, so the ability to even ask a question like that where is my being in sleep? You see? That means you are there in your sleep, but even the being is not there. No? So fundamentally, ultimately, it is not even being. Okay. I'm always waiting for something, one says. I'm always waiting for something except the present moment, which I miss in the process. Yes, yes. That is the human condition. And that's why we have satsang. That's why we have satsang. Okay, Atma Jyoti has her hand up. You can come, my dear.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm not sure if you can see me because my computer is old, so it's I don't know.
Ah,
Okay, so sorry.
very
Because the camera might be very blurry. I'm not sure how to
I
check it.
see your shadow.
So
It is
sorry
a,
for that. This is
yeah.
like maybe if I move a little.
You want to, yeah, that'll be nice actually. If I can see you a bit more.
Is it good?
Well,
Wait, I
okay.
don't know how to find me. Sorry. Jesus.
You have some light that you can switch on your phone or something that so that I can see your eyes a bit better.
Oh, we'll try. Better.
Slightly. It's okay. It's okay. We'll go.
Okay. So sorry. Um.
Okay.
Yeah, Father, I don't have um, like questions or like, and I've been following the satsang
Yeah.
right now. It's just in the moment, everything, but it's like I don't know why I still haven't the whole satsang such an urge to like come up. I don't know why. It's just like I need to speak to you, but
Did you say you hate to speak to me?
no, I need to. Like I feel like
I need to. I need to. Okay. Okay. I was not. I've heard that before also from others. So it's okay.
yeah.
You're very welcome to speak with me, my dear. So,
But I don't have anything to say. That's the thing.
That's fun. That reminded me of one boy who went to Guruji also like that. It's completely fine. I've been also getting your messages, and I feel like they are quite beautiful in terms of the discovery um, being made and the emptiness which is becoming more apparent to you. So I'm happy to have a conversation about nothing. Are you still watching the TV shows you were watching or no?
TV shows. Oh my god! At this moment, I can't even know what is a TV show. Less significantly. Yeah, way less. Actually,
Okay.
it's something like nothing interests me except satsang or silence, like just being silent. But okay,
You come back
if
to Bangalore, we'll fix that.
I'm fine without TV shows, trust me. I'm fine. It's just more like I don't know. The mind right now is quiet, but like usually it does talk a lot. Like a lot. It's just like not stream like a stream non-stop of some words, and it's like it's like more like a game thing is something. Sometimes I go with the mind. It's not that I go, it just happens automatically, like, and I'm with the thought, and I'm the thought, I become the thought, I become that, and then it's something like a, and then whoa, I'm no, and I'm like
Yeah.
going back, and this happens a lot lately, a lot, and I had like really like a strong mind attacks. Like I haven't experienced like that ever, and but actually right now after it all passed, I'm so grateful it happened. It came with so much grace, with so much I don't know seeing, and uh, it was yeah. I'm so grateful for that. Strange.
Very good. It's very good. I want to be able to say that I had the worst mind attack possible, but looking back, I see that there's so much gratitude for that. It's very beautiful. So you are aware that it is not the flow of thought which is so relevant. No? It can be a lot of,
Yes. Yes.
but when you say that it just happens automatically, that I buy into the thoughts is also just another thought. You see that?
Yes. Yes. But then yeah, it's like happens like this, like and
Yes.
then oh I
So
see, and I don't know. Mhm.
either way, if I was to say, no, I decide to go with my thought, that would be a thought, and that I end up going with my thought automatically, that would be another thought.
Yes. Yes.
And to notice that it is just a thought is more than enough.
And and then the another thing like that there is me as it's just thought somehow. I don't
Yeah,
know. Um,
of course. The me is purely a notional construct, thought construct.
yes.
I feel you're doing much better than you think you're doing.
No, Father, I feel good. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just like I feel nor good nor bad. It's just like
very good. That's very
feelings
Ribu,
come
very
and
Ribu of you.
sorry,
That's very Ribu of you, I say.
rebu.
Ribu,
Ah,
Ribu Gita.
rebu. Oh my. Nice. I don't know. Just like,
That's great. This is good satsang for me also, because usually what I'm doing is in interaction, I'm seeing the reflection on your face, in your eyes, and things like this, and able to gauge things on that and respond. But this is a test of pure intuition for me.
I don't. Just, I'm so sorry because this
No, no,
camera is quite old, so it's just like.
It's,
Oh my goodness.
happy to hear that voice of yours. I've not heard it for so long.
Yes. And the funny thing when I speak to you right now, it's just like it's just you and me and just
Yeah.
nothing else. So beautiful. Thank you. You're just like the greatest gift in my life for sure. Absolutely. Thank you, Father.
Oh, I love my child.
Same and beyond.
And everyone's okay at home? Mom's okay?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Actually, everything. It was. I had like really hard time. Like, oh my God, it was just non-stop. Like, mind non-stop. It seemed like the outside, what you call outside, it's non-stop. It's just coming, coming, coming. It was so much, but now I was like, thank God it happened. Thank God, it's such a lesson, such a blessing. It was just raining acid grace, and it's just like very, very, very needed, very, very beautiful.
Good. Oh
Thank
my
you,
God.
Father. Love you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Next one says, Hi, dear Father. The sense of presence is very clear in the waking and dream state. Yes. In the deep sleep state, it seems to be switched off. Yes. But of awareness is aware of itself always. But if awareness is aware of itself always, then why is it so subtle in deep sleep? It's not subtle or gross. You see? It is always what it is. Like in deep sleep state, you're right that the sense of beingness also dissolves into its source, which is awareness itself. But awareness just continues to remain as it always is. Why does presence seem to be so bright and obvious, while absolute awareness is subtle and not brightly self aware? Well, this is worth exploring. You see, like the sense of being, where does it get its brightness from? The I am is lit up by the I itself. If there was no I powering the I am and it was just am, it would not be. You see? So because in our conditioned mind we used to looking at phenomenal light as more light, you see, and this non-phenomenal, it's the most amazing thing, no? The most amazing non-thing. You see? How can it be like this? It is the most mystical, it is the most beautiful, the most pristine. You see, the lightless light which lights up this entire universe. You see? If being itself goes to sleep in it and wakes up in it, you see, then that which is greater than being, you see. So we say, how come ice is so much more tangible than water? You see? You can throw it, you can catch it, you can hurt someone with it, you see. You can make ice cream with it anyway. So you see, but without the water, what would ice be? It's made up of water, no? You see? So presence is made up of what? If there is clarity that there are times where presence is not, even presence is not, and yet I am aware that in deep sleep, even this sense of being dissolves, you see, then what must presence be made up of? If there is only I and not even amness in times of deep sleep, then what must this am be made up of? The same substance, quote unquote. Yeah. So, so I would not. I would first question the benchmark with which I'm measuring the luminosity or uh, the subtlety or the tangibility of it. Our typical worldly rules don't apply. You see. Also, Father, if awareness is aware of itself in deep sleep, why are we not automatically realized? Because the play is about the trouble in the waking state. In deep sleep, everybody is realized. I look at my children and they are such angels when they're sleeping. Yes. So everybody is realized in sleep. Vedanta says deep sleep as a veil of tamas, and there is no realization. It's a nice concept. You can use it if it appeals to you, but it's a concept. What can I say? Therefore, one needs to meditate and reach Turiya to clearly behold. Yes, in a way, I agree with that part of it, which is that to discover what you are in your sleep state while in the waking state, that is realization. Yeah, that is realization. So try it now. This is Turiya. And this stretched out in this seemingly stretched out in time is um, Turiya as it's usually called, but this you don't need anything else to discover whether you call it Turiya or Samadhi or type of Samadhi. So the point, the key word there is clearly behold, right? And I hope I've clarified in the satsang what it means to clearly behold, because many feel clearly behold as something else. And I don't have the energy to repeat the whole satsang, of course, but I hope when you say clearly behold, you're not talking about behold it perceptually. Even the Advaita police is coming now. Okay, Beatrice has her hand up. Beatrice can come.
Namaste, Father.
Namaste, my dear.
Um, um, I don't know really the question. It's just that the realization of the self has
Yeah,
been happening,
yeah,
that the world continues,
yeah.
and the sense of personal I still
Uh-huh.
coming, and something is still taking these energies like the true one, as the true one or something like this. And also there is
Repeat
like
the last, can you repeat the last one? The energies are coming, and
and also there is like a belief or concept that the real one, the true one in the phenomenal world have to be a determinate shape or something like this.
the true one has to take a shape. Is it like that?
Like it's like when I realize the self, this this self that is non-phenomenal have
Yeah.
a special phenomenal shape.
Ah, that can get you in big trouble because that is what is called, that shape is called the spiritual ego. You see, what is the shape of the non-phenomenal self? It is the entire manifest universe. That is the shape that it takes. The unmanifest takes the manifest shape, which is the entire universe. Now, within that universe, if you say that there's a special shape of that one who is realizing the self, then that is called the spiritual ego, and that can cause big trouble. You see, because then it becomes a bit like I'm realized. You
Yeah.
see, that is
Yeah.
only going to get whacked in life. No? So don't indulge in any of that.
I don't know more.
It can feel a bit disappointing also sometimes because it feels like I did I I wrote the examination, I passed it, but now I can't show the certificate. No, So it just feels a bit
Yes,
frustrating, no?
but I feel, I don't know, like this person or something still coming, that is something is aware of this movement. I don't know.
Don't
And
worry
it
about
feels like the
it.
person is still here, but even if it sometimes it takes like this
Where
person,
is it? Where is the
it's
person?
real or something like that, even if it's an awareness of this, it's not
When you
sometimes
say,
not so clear.
sorry, when you say the person is still here, can you show me where it is?
No, I don't know.
If it was here, you could show me, no?
I don't know.
It's just an idea. It's an idea. No person has ever existed, actually.
Yes, but it is still happening. An idea of that is this body as somebody, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. As long
Uh,
as that idea continues to get belief, as long as that these ideas of individuality continue to get belief from consciousness, consciousness will keep presenting to itself also satsang to rid itself of these ideas. You see?
yes,
So you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. As long as the spiritual ego doesn't become strong and say, I don't need satsang anymore, you know, then this kind of stuff,
yes.
I
I
could be sharing. You see?
uh,
This,
I feel also that something is, I don't know, like trying to uh, I don't. It's not avoidance, or I don't know. It's like I forget that is satsang,
yeah, yeah,
or the situation of my life brings some difficultness
yeah,
to be in satsang or something like that, and it is a feeling or a fear that forget satsang and forget. Uh, but this is also seen, no? It's not very seen.
Like how long will you forget? Suppose you forget this entire lifetime, you forget. Then I meet you in the next lifetime. If you forget for 100 lifetime, then I meet you after 100. You see, how long will we forget?
I don't know.
For the self, it doesn't really matter. So, so you see, but when we are pinched enough, when we are poked enough by the suffering of identity, we do run back to satsang one way or the other.
Yes. And also all these thing of belief, no? Because belief is also maybe a is phenomenal also.
Mhm.
It's also a sensation or something like this.
In a
So
way, because there's no question of belief in deep sleep state. So we
so
can say it is a primal power of beingness or consciousness.
yes, but the true one
Yeah.
is beyond belief.
Yes, yes, yes. It's true. Uh, yeah.
So I don't know, I just present this to you. Uh, because also and also there is a seeker, no, like if I get rid of the seeker, how can be sure that I don't know, just no
Yes.
nonsense.
I feel like just relax. Just don't worry about it. Relax and just allow yourself to let go of all this concern and concepts and person and all of this thing. Just empty, empty, empty.
Okay.
See? Pick one, pick, pick. You see, pick one stick which helps you. You see, because in your heart you know whether you need some help or not. You see, in your mind, the mind will either make you very special and say, hey, I don't need help because I'm free. Or sometimes say, I'm just faking it, I'm not getting anything, my life is
Yes.
secure. You see, it'll play that game there. And if you get involved in that game, then it'll all be very confusing. But in
Mm.
your heart, if you feel like you need some help, then uh, all the help, all the pointers are available to you, you see. And you can inquire, you can surrender, you can come to satsang. It's all the assistance that is needed is available to you. You see, but if you get involved in the mental game of I've got it or I'm getting it or I'm losing it, I don't know what's happening, you see, then it keeps switching with time. That's a bit crazy, no? It'll drive you crazy if you keep following
Yes,
that.
yes, there is something that says, I know it
Yeah,
already. I know, and I know what I have to do
yeah,
to
yeah.
find myself. Just
Well,
leave
well, the fun,
everything, be here, observe that
yeah,
all this is also, you
yeah. The funny thing is that I never know what to do,
know, what, sorry?
what to do, or what to say, or how to be, or any of that. You see? I don't need that knowledge. You see? If it can be constructed, if it can be notionalized, then it is just false knowledge. It is just made up. You don't need to know what to do. You don't need to know what to say. You see, I- when you're free. But when in your heart you need some assistance and you go to it with your head bowed down and say, okay, what do I do? Then your intuition or the master outside can guide you with what to do. But if you feel like you are free and you know what to do, then there's a problem there somewhere. Or maybe I'm not free. I don't know.
Okay, so
Don't know anything. Don't know anything. Just clean up. Fully empty. Fully empty. It's a good pointer, actually, because many times we can feel like I'm free now. I know what to do. You see, and it creates this sort of notional freedom in our heads. So, so just empty. Empty is freedom. There's no other freedom. Just open and empty is freedom. But if you're like this, you see, then that's not freedom. That's not freedom. It could be the mind's version of freedom. That's not freedom. Just just to be just to be free is freedom. To know is not to be free. You see. To know is to define. You see, is to construct, and the construction is the limitation. You see. The deconstruction is freedom. The emptiness is freedom. So good. I'm happy you come up in satsang. You see, because many times we can construct like a version of ourselves, but that version of ourselves will keep getting attacked by another version of ourselves.
mm,
I would say just let go of all versions of yourself. You see. I don't know what freedom is. If you start to know what freedom is, then it'll cause you some trouble. I'm with you, Ajay. I'm with you. It may seem like um, sometimes the words that come out can seem a bit strong and choppy and things like that, but the point is to not let you build any egoic constructs which will only give you suffering in the future. So, so just allow yourself to remain as empty as you can, and don't allow your mind to trick you into any um, constructed ideas about yourself, especially ideas about freedom and things like that, because that will create a very strong fortress, like a strong defense, which will avoid and resist even the words of satsang. It will avoid the master like the plague, actually. You want to run
Mm.
from the master because you feel like, uh, no, but I got this, man. I got this. What's happening then? What's happening then is that there's a fear that the construction that we have constructed so far will come to the master and we're just going to take the hammer and blast it. So, whether it is apparent to us or not, sometimes we build these kind of defenses, and that causes us to kind of say, yeah, yeah, I feel like I'm doing very well now. Ananta doesn't know me so well, so he's just going to, give his standard answers and say empty, empty, chop, chop, this kind of thing. So, so, but in true freedom, we are not afraid to be chopped. We are not afraid for everything that is there to get blown away. You see? So if there are tendencies to create imagery about ourselves, then it's good that you come to satsang and you expose like this, because allow those images to get blown up, even though you may feel like they are important images and they are getting you to the final destination or something like that. You see. They're just the mirages. They're just the mirage. There's no actual oasis there. It is just, and then empty of all these images, you are free. You don't have to convince me actually that you are free. I know you are free. It is your constructions which constrict you. You see? It is the constructions which limit everyone. So
Thank you very much.
thank you, my dear. Thank you so much. Okay, one says, what is the difference between I and I amness, Father? The difference between sleep state and the waking state. Isn't I automatically aware of itself as I am? Isn't I automatically aware of itself? Yes. As I am? Yes. In the waking state. Doesn't awareness know itself to exist as itself? Well, depends. And this can cause confusion, right? So, if by amness we are talking about the sense of being or presence, you see, then it is not a constant and it is not always. But if by amness we are talking about the reality of awareness itself, that reality awareness is what we mean by I am, then that's a different definition that we're using, and don't allow the semantics to confuse you. You see. So many times we get into like a semantical confusion. That's why I said that you are aware that you woke up this morning. That is the arising of the I amness. You see, we are not talking about the reality of awareness itself as the sense of being of awareness. Awareness is being beyond the sense of being coming and going. You see? So this is the limitation of language. But I have a sense that you're getting me in your heart, although your mind will make a lot of attempt to confuse you. Thank you, thank you. Anantaji, I love you too. I love you too. Thank you, my dear. Can you show me the person and quotes? Yes, yes. Can one remain empty always, or is it just a notion? Always is a notion. And so is everything else, actually. There is a feeling of wobbliness inside my head. Yes, yes. I think you said it's like the withdrawal symptoms. Yes. This wobbliness is very common. It's like the withdrawal symptoms from the false identity. You see? We get addicted to consuming ourselves as a limited entity, notions of ourselves as a limited entity. We get addicted in a way, not really, it's just dramatic representation. So, but it feels like that. The highest addiction or the greatest addiction we have is with the mind. You see? And then when we let go of this mind, then it is very common and very natural for us to feel this wobbliness. This wobbliness, which is a combination of fear, and it's a combination of a feeling of dying sometimes, or a feeling of the great unknown, or it can be the feeling of the 40 days and 40 nights. It depends on whatever term we use. But it's very common as the switchover is happening from egoic identity to just being. It is very common to have these withdrawal symptoms. It's fine, Nitya. We're here. We're here together in this, so we'll get through this withdrawal symptoms as well. Thank you for eating the burden, Lock Niti Monster. Much love and gratitude. Thank you. Thank you. 709-630-8907. Sorry, yes. Well, the number is visible. So anyway, you have something to say. Maybe you can type out a bit, because we had some experiences in the past where we had some trolls, they hang out and they did all kinds of things. So not that I'm expecting that to happen, but maybe you can type a line or two before we let you unmute and present. And if you don't want your number shared in the recording, you may have to do some editing. I'm sorry about that. You say so. I don't know where to start. Okay, that is a good start. Let me unmute you. You can come, Madi. You can come. You're unmuted.
I hope I am visible.
Yes, yes. It's a bit patchy.
So this thing, I don't know. Do you hear me?
It's okay. Let's try. Let's try. It's not great, but let's try. Let's try and get a sense of it.
Okay. So there's this thing going on since a day or two that I try and get my head out of it and work on the snap theory, but it doesn't let me come out of whether the thing, it just doesn't let me come out, and there's this burning inside that this is not right, or this shouldn't be the correct way. So yeah.
Describe a little more in terms of what is happening. You feel like you're constantly involved with your thoughts, or is it some other type of feeling that is happening?
um, there's this a fear of something, and that whatever I am doing is not correct, or whatever has happened in the past was not correct, or it is somehow affecting the current way of life,
Ah, I see.
and it's not working.
So there's a feeling of this constriction, which we can call a fear, and then the messages behind the constriction are that something is not right, I'm not doing it right, or something is not working. And when we say working or not working, are we
Yeah,
talking about
yeah, yeah.
or are we talking about freedom, or are we talking about something else? Like what would working be?
No, I don't get you.
Yeah, if it was to work, what would that look like?
Like it would be a burdenless thing. The continuous thing going on the back of my mind, it just never stops and it just keeps coming back every time I try to stop it. And the moment I think that, okay, I have to be empty or there's nothing to lose in this moment, back to it.
Sometimes what we hear in Satsang and our spiritual knowledge itself can become quite burdensome. So, um, so in a way, I apologize for that because it can happen this way that when we are trying to be empty, we can pick up a notion that to be empty means that there must be no more thought coming. Actually, to be empty means there's a allowing of all thoughts to come and go. You're just not so concerned with their content. But what can happen in the spiritual seeking is that the burden to try and remain empty itself becomes more suffering than what we came into spirituality for. Is it somewhat like what's happening with you?
Yeah. I
So what?
cannot like accurately define it, but maybe.
It's okay. It's okay. So I would just say, just relax. Just relax into it. Get everything that you're trying to do and what you heard in satsang. Don't try to use the snap theory. Don't try to remain empty. Let go for a moment. Whatever is coming is completely fine.
But but then there's this how do I explain this? It affects you, okay? The thoughts affect you, and then there's a way that you're not supposed to be affected by these thoughts.
Yes.
So then how do you just work on it if you're not really,
Yeah.
using anything?
And that depends on your temperament. There are two solutions to not being affected. The first solution is to try and find the one that is affected by the thought. Okay? That gets affected by the thought. When you say the thought affects me, when you repeat this me that is affected, do you find the sufferer of the thought? That is the first way. But if this way does not appeal to you and you feel you're more of a devotional temperament, then you can surrender every thought to God, universe, Guru, and say, whatever you want to say is God's problem. So do you feel like what do you feel your temperament is? Do you want to oh, who is this me that gets affected by it? Or do you want to just let go and say, not my problem?
I want to know.
You want to know who it is. Okay. So that's a very good start. So when you say a thought comes and it affects me, you locate this me who is affected.
It is it is me.
Yeah. What does it mean? What does it mean? Is it the body?
Yeah.
But the body doesn't want freedom, no? If the thought comes and says, you are not empty enough, you should be more empty. Ananta comes and snaps and people become empty. But look at you. When will you become empty? It is not talking about the body. The body is
So
free right now. It is not bound. It is in no chains. So who is the one that wants freedom?
And the brain wants the freedom.
Can you repeat that, my dear? It's not so clear.
My mind wants the freedom.
Mind wants. So it is the bondage itself which is claiming to want, and therefore making freedom into your new bondage.
But it's not working.
If working would mean that you're peaceful in the moment, then you don't need anything to make it work. No? That is the gift that every moment gives to us anyway.
But then you should know how to grab it, and that's where I fail.
But to grab it would be to fail, because grasping is suffering, and it's not just Ananta saying that. It's very self who said that. So if you don't try to grab it, does it go away?
No, it's just there.
What is missing right now?
Nothing.
Are you doing something special to hold it right now?
No.
The but will come. Isn't it? But let it come. It will come. And even the but does not change simplicity of this.
Yeah.
So don't try to snap out of it. Don't try to be empty, because the mind is using spiritual instruction as the egoic bondage. And if any of you feel that, you must come up and expose in this way. It's very good, because this is the bane of the spiritual seeker, that the mind, the chakra guy can use these benchmarks which it hears in satsang itself to create a new prison for himself.
Yeah.
Not trying to be empty is also empty.
Even thinking about not being empty. Like,
Yes,
even thinking about being empty is not being empty.
yes, yes. Thank you. Very nice speaking with you, my dear. I like to keep in touch and I'd like you to come over the next few satsangs as well, and if you can say something, it'll be nice.
Yeah, sure, I will.
Very good, very good, very good. Thank you. Okay, we have a lot of hands suddenly. Okay, one says, Father, I've had pulsatile tinnitus. How do you pronounce this thing? Tinnitus. Many of you have this thing, tinnitus, in my right ear, hearing for the past 2 years. Please bless me so that I can accept and make peace with it. May my Father's grace bring full acceptance and openness to whatever afflictions we may feel like the body has, and maybe not get into our mind's interpretations and fears about them. All my blessings. Okay, Karam has his hand up. You can come, my dear.
Hi, Father. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I actually have a question that I don't know how to put into words right now.
Okay, those are good. Those are really good.
Um, I'm right now, I mean, I'm only a 21-year-old and, finding my way through and going through a major change in terms of
Yeah.
spirituality and finding just, I don't know what to call it.
If I
And
could
even,
ask you, because you say that you're 21-year-old and I got
yeah,
into spirituality at 23, so you have a head start on me also. So if I could
okay.
ask you, do you feel like there's some triggers that brought you into this, or it just happened one day that you found yourself interested in satsang?
Um, I've always been interested since I was since I was a kid in the idea of like just being just understanding yourself. It started from a very selfish standpoint where watching TV shows and people having more control on over their minds and being able to use that to their advantage. But then as I started working more on it, I like exploring it a little bit more. Um, I understood a little bit more, and then someone suggested satsang to me, and here I am.
And you've been here last few weeks, I've noticed quite consistently. So, is there a sense that something, although may not be necessarily mentally clear, do you feel like something is getting clearer in your heart, or what is the feeling like?
For sure, for sure. In fact, I think the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks that I've been to satsang, I always make it a point to ask you whatever's on my mind, and sometimes I always have something on my mind. And whatever you said last week, last week you mentioned to just come innocent and stay as innocent as a child whenever I come to satsang, and I took that, I tried that approach,
Yes, yes.
and it has helped a lot when even in other situations. I mean, I have school, I have work, and Lord knows it can get a lot. But I think saying that to myself in some sense before approaching it really helps. And I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, 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 very good. Exactly what I wanted to hear. Because the advantage of youth also in a way is that there's an innocence of innocence, and we're not as jaded as we can get as we are a little bit older. So sometimes I found that with the younger ones it's been very nice because it's accepted with some openness, no? Because otherwise what happens is if we uh, as we get older, not to generalize, but many times for those who get older, we can become a bit strong about our beliefs and our knowledge and everything. So it's very difficult sometimes to get through and find an entry point. But if you're able to take just the simple pointings, you know, just to remain open, just to have the innocence of a child, and not just in satsang but also in life situations, then that itself is a beautiful, beautiful openness. And I'm very happy to hear that report actually. Very happy.
I do have one question. In terms of innocence, actually, I feel like that could also come into play here. Um, I'm trying to take that attempt into just being open to every experience, and knowing myself and knowing some patterns that I fall into. I'll say yes to a lot of things that I want to do or I think are the right moves to take, and I'm trying to be better at that. In that I try to find some sort of stability so I don't just get overwhelmed and sit back down on my chest saying, "This is yours."
Can you repeat,
Um,
elaborate on this part a bit about
I'm
the
sorry.
trying to? Can you elaborate on this bit a bit? Trying to find stability. Oh,
Sure, sure. In the sense of innocence, if coming from that zone, I find myself sometimes getting excited with a lot of options in front of me, and I'll say yes to everything that comes on as an opportunity. Though I enjoy that, it's something that I don't do a lot but I also know that I tend to get overwhelmed with all of it. And rather than being able to do all of them, I'll just give up on all 10 opportunities that came up because now it's a lot on my head.
Yes.
And before that happens this time, I just wanted to know if you have any ideas or thoughts on how I could do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It can happen actually. Initially, it can feel like, as we are experimenting with openness and innocence, it can feel like openness means being open. Like in the world, when we hear, I have to be open, then it's like that
Mhm.
movie sometime, no? Yes, man, or something like this, where it feels like, I'm so open. Yes, 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 yeah. You can start like this. That I'm being truly open like this. But actually, the openness, it's a good start. It's not bad actually. But the openness that I'm talking about really is just being open to whatever appearance is coming in front of us, and being open to whatever is the heartfelt or intuitive response which is coming from here as well. You see, so many times it just happens, well, not many times, but a few times it happens here that somebody is speaking with me and I'm looking very openly, and the response that is coming from here is no. You see, so openness is not necessarily that we are saying yes to life, or in that kind of self-help sort of way. Openness is
Mhm.
allowing also the intuition from here to express itself, and we can trust that. So if your intuition is operating in that way, that at the moment it's saying yes to everything, that is fine too. You see, and if you're getting overwhelmed, that is fine too. Actually, it's not so much trouble. At 21, you can afford to be a bit overwhelmed. It's fine. It's fine. This too shall pass. It's not going to become something big. But really, our openness is the openness to allow ourselves to say no also when it's coming from the heart, to say no. You see, and that intuitive guidance will become clearer and clearer in your openness. You see, sometimes if the
Mhm.
guidance is not there, you're you can just say, I don't have an answer yet. You see, and you may have fear of making the other one feel bad, or it can feel like you're leaving them in limbo or something like that. But you can trust that, like, if there's no answer coming intuitively for you, then you can just say, let me get back to you, I don't know yet. You know? And many times it can feel like, but the other one will think I'm stupid, or I don't even know what I want, I'm not clear in life, these kind of things. But we must not worry about that kind of self-image, what people are thinking of us. And then we come to a true openness. You see, so in your openness, one day you could be like, no, 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 no. Another day it could be yes, no, yes, yes, no. It could be anything. So it's not, so I'm not prescribing a way that you have to be in the outward expression. You see, I'm not telling you to embrace life or to renounce life. You see, I'm not providing you any of those. I'm just giving you
Mhm.
your inner spaciousness of openness. And from that inner spaciousness of openness, sometimes in your outer expression as the body mind, you're embracing life. And sometimes you just need your space. You want to renounce everything for a bit. And both are fine. You can allow the natural flow of life to guide you in that way. You see? So it's not prescriptive in the sense of what you should do outwardly. It's
Mhm.
prescriptive in the sense of your inner spaciousness. Just allow yourself to be free inwardly, and outwardly sometimes you may come across very strong. You see, Gopala is here today. I don't know if he's still here, but he once called me the butcher of Bangalore. No, it can sound like I'm just saying no. Is it like this? No. Is it like this? No. And sometimes it's some other day it's yes my child, yes my child, yes my child. Everything is like that, and sometimes I surprise because mostly my responses are yes my child, of course my child, like this. But sometimes it'll come that when we most expecting that, we get a no, I don't feel that is good. And that takes many times takes us by surprise, although it rarely happens. Mhm. So so don't put yourself in any box in terms of your outward expression, how it should be. And even if you feel like you've been sort of prototyping it in the wrong way, in the outward way, and saying yes to everything, trying to be open, that's also okay. That's also okay. It's your intention in your heart which guides everything. So treat even that as grace, and you'll see that grace will sort out all your decisions and in a beautiful way with whatever it has to bring. You see? I hope it provided some guidance in terms of
Definitely, definitely, definitely.
so keep experimenting with this, keep playing with this, and I'm happy to hear more reports from you and keep
For
me
sure,
posted about how it's going.
for sure, for sure. Thank you for.
Very good. Yeah, very good. So welcome. Okay, there's a lot to read. Let me now just. One says, this looks very small, so I'm going to read it. If I stay with my breath, am I making an effort not to create duality? If I stay with my breath, am I making an effort not to create duality? If you're staying with your breath motionlessly, then there's no trouble about anything. There's no duality or non-duality left then. It's a beautiful thing. If it comes naturally, I'm not suggesting it as a practice to the rest of you, but for you, if it is coming naturally, where you can just keep your attention on your breath. Stay with my breath means that, no? What does it mean? It means that our attention is on the breath. So if it feels like it is quite natural for you, then no trouble. Then you don't have to intellectualize it in any way and try to figure it out. It's just fine. It's beautiful actually. Okay, one says they need help, so I'll read that. Father, I need help. I'm experiencing a battle in my mind about something. I cannot solve it in my mind, of course. Very good. I am asking you for your blessings for the situation, but more than this, I am ready to use the situation to bring it into the inquiry. I don't know how, but I'm open to be guided. After that, if there's some step to be taken, I completely leave it at your feet. May you do whatever needs to be done. Very good. So, if your last statement is true, may you do whatever needs to be done, and that you, of course, is capital U, is the Sadguru presence or God presence, which is your own heart, which is your own being. You see? So, if you surrender to that, then you don't even need to decide how you're going to use this. Um, you're not going to have any sort of expectation of any outcome or even benefit out of this, because sometimes in our spiritual pointing, we could be saying that everything is of benefit of you, and I say that often in satsang. But sometimes even that can become a prison, right? And we become like, how can I use this? Like, this is coming, it's poking me, but how can I use this? You see, and at some point that is helpful, but after a point we let go of even these tactics. Like, we don't want to be helped or not helped. You see? We're taking no position about grasping at anything at all. So so it's useful provisionally because we make what seems like a tyranny into a blessing by saying this is helping you. You see, but many times the you that is being helped in that picture can be troublesome. So I feel like for you, you've come to this point where you can just let go. You just let go. Whatever's happening, stay with your last statement. Use that as your stick. May you do whatever needs to be done, which is just like saying Guru Kripa Kevalam. May the Master's grace be done. You see? So let go. Don't try to use any situation. Don't try to resolve or leave it unresolved. Don't have any position about it at all. Leave everything to the Master's grace. Very good. Very good. Very good. Then one says the spiritual ego is more concerned now about a headache than the non-spiritual guy was ever concerned. See, exactly, exactly. Very well spotted. See? There is no other champion sufferer than the spiritual ego. Very good. Love you very much. Love you very much too, my dear. My heart is a thank you to you. So sweet. Thank you. Good. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. Thank you, thank you. So much love to all of you. Somebody has hand up. Madalena, okay, you can come.
Thank you so much. Uh, Thank you for the grace, and I wanted to ask for your blessings for me to be able to surrender everything to God.
Yes. All my blessing, all my full blessing and full prediction that may it be so, may it be so. Right.
And
Say.
there is one more blessing that I need for Anna, my daughter with
I
disabilities.
remember. How is she doing? Is she okay?
Oh,
She's adjusting to the school.
she just started school now because we've been in lockdown for 3 months.
Yeah.
And she's been quite unsettled in the past couple of weeks. So
She's completely in my heart. She's completely in my heart. All my blessings to her.
thank you so much for keeping us in your heart.
Guruji's grace is taking care of both of you, all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, madam. Okay, what do we want to hear now? Uh-huh. Happy Pankaj is back because he made it through the illness and now he is immune, so he's always welcome to come. It's very good. It's very good. Also, my parents went through it. Most of you know my father got it, and he's recovered quite well. And then my mother also contracted it from him, so she's also recovered well. So it's a grace in a way because we've been restricting ourselves from meeting them, but now we can meet them more openly. Although it's not 100% that you can't get it again, but it's mostly 99 or something. So I feel like we can live with those odds a bit more than how it was at least. So, yeah, so things seem to be getting better one way or the other with this situation in the world. So that's good. Well, in India at least, I hear that in Europe the numbers are increasing now. But all our collective love and blessings and prayers and with full awareness that Guruji's grace is taking care already. Okay, what should we hear? What were you saying? That other one?
I shared on WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Ramakrishna.
दर्शितं येन चराचरम् तत्पदर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः सागर तारन कारण है रवि नंदन बंधन खंडन है भव सागर तारन कारण है रवि नंदन बंधन खंडन है शरणागत किंकर भीत मने शरणागत किंकर भीत मने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने कंदर तामस भास्कर हे तुमी विष्णु प्रजापति शंकर हे पर ब्रह्म परात्पर वेद माने पर ब्रह्म परात्पर वेद माने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने शासन अंकुश हे नर त्राण तारे गणि चाक्षुष हे गुण गान परायण देव गणे गुण गान परायण देव गणे गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने कुल कुंडलिनी कुम भंजा कहे हृदय ग्रंथि विदार कहे मम मानस चंचल रात्र दिने मम मानस चंचल रात्र दिने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने गुरुदेव दया कर दीन जने रिपुसूदन मंगल नायक हे सुख शांति मारा भयदायक हे त्रयताप हरे तब नाम गुणे त्रयताप हरे तब नाम गुणे গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে অভিমান প্রভাব বিমল করে প্রতিদিন জানে তুমি রক্ষা করে চিত সঙ্গীত বঞ্চিত ভক্তি ধনে চিত সঙ্গীত বঞ্চিত ভক্তি ধনে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে তব নাম সদা শুভ সাধক হে পতিতাধম মানব পাবক হে মহিমা তব গোচর শুদ্ধ মনে মহিমা তব গোচর শুদ্ধ মনে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে জয় সদ্গুরু ঈশ্বর প্রাপক হে ভবরোগ বিকার বিনাশক হে মন যেন রহে তব শ্রী চরণে মন যেন রহে তব শ্রী চরণে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে 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 গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে
Thank you all so much for being in Satsang today. Sadhguru Sri Muji Baba ki Jai. Guru Kripa Keval.